As the king of Canadian I'm not doing that again. As the crown prince of Canadian critics, it is time for another quick Canadian class. Oh, come on, that doesn't even make sense. As if Superman wasn't enough of a reason to thank the Toronto area, 007 was created here as well. In fact, it was my hometown of Whitby, Ontario, where Camp X existed, that trained Allied forces in the art of espionage. One of those trainees, yeah, you guessed it, Ian Fleming, and when he stayed in a military residence, he stayed across the street from a St. James Bond United Church in Toronto. So my question is, why isn't James Bond more Canadian? He could drink strong beer instead of martinis. All his injuries would be covered because of healthcare, and he could use women, but he'd feel real sorry about it. Yeah, then again, a Canadian tuxedo just isn't as stylish, is it? And let's face it, the style is why we go to see these movies, why we love Bond and have for decades. We want to see the white tux, the martinis, the henchmen, the supervillains, and of course, the Bond girls. And director Sam Mendes and writer John Logan both proved with Skyfall that they very much respect the Bond staples. I just wish Sam Smith would as well. They can't all be classics like Goldfinger or Live and Let Die, or even modern hits like Adele's Skyfall. And what the hell was with Nobody Does It Better? Is that even... Anyway, the point is that the Bond songs set the tone for the entire film. And while Sam Smith's Writing on the Wall is a beautiful and catchy song, it's not a Bond theme. And Writing on the Wall, I felt, kind of reflected the film because it was a little slow at times. But that's only one small part of the entire Bond experience. For me, the most important part is often the biggest part, as in physically large. The franchise just wouldn't be where it is if it weren't for the likes of henchmen like Oddjob, Jaws, or even modern giants like Stamper. Is there anything better than a platinum blonde German as a henchman? Well, there is. How about a 6'6", nearly 300-pound Filipino-American colossus? One of my favorite former wrestlers, Dave Bautista, who has turned his inability to act into a string of memorable character roles. Bautista has become the very definition of the strong silent type, as Diaz in Riddick, Brass Body in The Man with the Iron Fist, and of course Drax in the Guardians of the Galaxy. I personally love it because he turned his weakness, his inability to act, into his strength, aside from his obvious physical strength. Bautista's Mr. Hinks in Spectre is everything you want in a henchman. He's strong, he's silent, he's dangerous, and he's even got an eccentric way of killing people, like Oddjob's hat or Jaws' jaw. Hinks uses bladed thumbnails to blind his enemies when he digs his thumbs into their skull. Oh, I'm sorry, did I say enemies? I meant enemy, because he only does it once. One of my biggest complaints is we see very little of the big man. He is a great addition to the franchise. He gives us some of the best action of the movie and arguably one of the best Bond fight scenes of all time. Bautista's Mr. Hinks is actually now in my top 3 Bond henchmen of all time. And you better believe that makes him the for the win. There's something about a big man with a beard and a sharp suit. I don't know what it is. Some classic staples didn't quite work for me, as even the acting talents of Christoph Waltz couldn't save what John Logan was trying to do with the film's main antagonist. Spectre is now suffering from what I'm calling the Into Darkness complex, where the filmmakers tried to create an enormous twist surrounding the main antagonist. But in this day and age, the internet pretty much spoils everything. It's as if the filmmakers of the new Batman cast Jared Leto and then accidentally there was a leaked photo of him with green hair and bright red lipstick. And then they still deny who he is. What? No, he's not the Joker. His name is Jacob Lafferson. As much as I wasn't a fan of the writing, especially the backstory that they tried to force between Waltz and Craig, I do have to say that John Logan is an excellent writer in a lot of respects. In fact, he's responsible for creating Penny Dreadful, one of my favorite new shows, which stars a former Bond and a former Bond girl. Coincidence? There is an interesting development coming out of Spectre, and it has everything to do with the fact that John Logan, as much as he pays homage to classic Bond staples, actually made the script of Spectre one of the more progressive Bond films when it comes to the ideals that it represents. For the first time, it's not just James Bond who's called archaic, it's the entire MI6 program who's actually in danger of being shut down in this film. Not only is this long overdue because the modern idea of espionage has completely changed from when Bond was created, but the fact is it gives this Bond film a level of self-awareness that the franchise has never had before. One thing the franchise has had before is beautiful Bond girls, and the stunning Léa Seydoux is no exception. However, she's not your typical Bond girl. There have been some examples of strong Bond women in the past, but they're too few to count, and the fact of the matter is with Seydoux's character, she finally represents a woman who is Bond's equal in almost every respect. She's smart, she's sexy, she's had a tumultuous past just like James, but more importantly, she knows how to take care of herself. She's just as dangerous as James, and in fact, saves him at one point in this movie. And with Seydoux, you actually believe she's a doctor, unlike some former Bond girls. Everything in this movie seemed to be underused. I wanted to see more Mr. Hinks, more screen time for Q and Moneypenny, Monica Bellucci, and Andrew Scott. And the fact is, while I was praising Mendes' direction in Skyfall, I felt that with Spectre, he didn't leave his mark on the movie. I don't think Spectre is going to go down as a Bond classic. In fact, I would put it in the bottom 2 of Daniel Craig Bond films. But it does give you pretty much everything you want from a Bond movie. It's not great, but it is good, and it is an earn it. Poll question, because I already asked about henchmen with my Skyfall review, I have to ask, who is your favorite Bond girl? Léa Seydoux is pretty good. As always, leave your answers in the comments section below. Be sure to subscribe to Real School, follow me on Twitter, and of course, if you get anything out of Real School, you can always give a little back. Just click the link, and you can become a Real School patron. But until next time, school's out.